Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our Hamlet discussion and review. This is, again, a continuation to our anti-coronavirus online classes from the Islamic University of Gaza. This is Rifat Al-Arair. I'm really always happy to be talking to my brilliant students. And again, I recommend you to stay at home. Please don't go out, and take good care of yourself and your family and loved ones. Last time we had an amazing class on how fascinating Shakespeare is. We discussed how Shakespeare is brilliant when it comes to his ideas. We quote him every time, every day. We discussed how Shakespeare is the most quoted person alive. We discussed how Shakespeare is brilliant in the way he builds characters, the psychologies, the development of characters, the characterization in his plays, the themes, the stories, the ideas. But most importantly to me, to us, the way I like to do Shakespeare is to focus on the language, how he chooses the language, how he words his poetry. And we took two examples last time. Today I'll go in passing on yet another example of how Shakespeare is meticulous and brilliant in many ways. Today we'll discuss several issues related to characters and characterization in Shakespeare. I recommended Harold Bloom and the invention of human. You watched Ahmed's presentation last time. He focused on how this person is fascinated about Shakespeare. So for Bloom, he believes Shakespeare created us. We live in the shadow of Shakespeare, in the shadow of Shakespeare's characters, because how significant, how important, how multi-layered, how complicated they are. So he talks about the miracle of creating different yet self-consistent voices. And for many reasons, this one included the characterization, Shakespeare will remain the limit of human achievement. Nobody is going to push further because Shakespeare has always been there. No matter what you do, Shakespeare has always been there. And probably I quoted Freud saying the poets were always there before me. Maybe he had mainly Shakespeare in mind. So Shakespeare went to the outward limit of human achievement aesthetically, cognitively, psychologically, morally, and even linguistically and literally. And now Shakespeare explains us, because simply speaking, according to Bloom, he invented us. He explains us. We find ourselves in Hamlet, in Ophelia, in Portia, in Gertrude, in Horatio. We find a lot of us in these characters. We identify with them. We share, whether they are good or bad. And you need to be careful here. Shakespeare doesn't distinguish, doesn't discriminate against his characters. Whether they are bad or good, he gives them the time, the chance to present themselves, to talk, to soliloquize, and to speak to the audience. And again, we'll find always new modes. But like, I think it was Bloom who believes that Shakespeare never repeated himself. Each play, each character is unique. Hundreds of main characters, thousands of minor characters. There are always new modes of consciousness coming into being. And again, they never, and this is significant, I like to focus on this, Shakespeare's characters never cease to exist. Meaning Hamlet lived 400 years ago, died 400 years ago, but he still is alive and grows and keeps growing and growing with every reading, every production, every article, every class, every discussion. No author rivals Shakespeare in the way he creates characters, none. And this crazy idea again from Bloom, how Hamlet is the most cited in Western civilization. He says no one prays to Hamlet, but no one evades him for a long time. Wherever you go, he'll be quoted, he will be mentioned, he will be referred, and that's only one character, that's Hamlet. And that's why the answer to the question why Shakespeare is always going to be, who else is there? Why not? Who else is there? If not Shakespeare, who else is there? We'll see how Shakespeare does this with Polonius, Ophelia, Portia, and the Ghost. Now, remember, in traditional classical Aristotelian drama, the drama had to have the unity of place, the unity of time, the unity of action. Tragedy is tragedy, comedy is comedy. You shouldn't mix these things. Shakespeare does like to push the boundaries and experiment. He loves to mix between tragedy and comedy. Now, in Hamlet, Shakespeare is invested in the comic scenes. They're just not scenes in passing. They're not just 1-2 scenes. There is a lot of comedy in the play. Okay, that's Amal. She knows that I'm vulnerable now and she wants things. يلا باي سكرتها. خديها سكرتها. يلا.
خدها
كلها.
ما هو أمي بدنا البزر هذاك اللون أبيض.
خدي. طيب. So when Polonius is gone, remember he dies. Shakespeare brings yet another character on the stage. He also, you know, the idea of the duel itself. Like it could have been sorted out in the grave scene, the graveyard scene, where okay, Hamlet and Laertes are fighting each other, and then okay, we'll duel tomorrow. Let's meet tomorrow and fight. But Shakespeare gives us a whole, like around 250 lines. Yeah, there was Hamlet, like there were so many important things. But again, he throws another funny character, comic character, because he wants this to continue. He wants these comic scenes to be a part of this. And probably you can connect this with, what's his name? I know, Yorick, the jester. Now, the two characters serve almost the same purpose. Polonius always generates rich comedy with his redundancy, his nonsensical comments, his repetition, his wordiness, and his digressions. He always gives us tedious elaborations. You know, he digresses بيستطرد كتير. And when he digresses, he repeats himself and contradicts himself. We see when he was describing Hamlet's reason why Hamlet was sane, and what is mad but being mad. He keeps repeating himself, and then he realizes that he does this. This reminds me of Joe Biden, by the way. He keeps losing his train of thought. And I want you to go, by the way, to the text to make connections here. And that's why it was brilliant of what's her name, Gertrude, to tell him more matter, less art. Stop beating around the bush. Tell me what you want to say. And it's true that brevity is the soul of wit is one of Shakespeare's most important quotes. And it is attributed to Polonius. But remember, this is Shakespeare. There are always layers and layers of meanings. So this statement is beautiful, is witty, is laconic, but at the same time, it's very ironic because the context itself, the speaker is a very wordy man who doesn't stop blathering and ranting. He's almost never brief himself. So he preaches what he doesn't practice. Like probably Laertes when his sister told him, okay, you tell me this, but you do the opposite. So Polonius's digressions and getting lost halfway through the ideas, these things are very comic and they add to the dramatic variety of the play. The man seems to have gone senile. You know, senile, he's very old, he's forgetful, he has some kind of dementia. The most dangerous thing here is that there is, look at this, there's a striking similarity between him and Hamlet. Hamlet loves to talk. Hamlet is wordy. Probably he doesn't forget sometimes, he doesn't repeat himself that much, he digresses sometimes, but he's as wordy as this man and sometimes as witty. Or maybe at least, this is something wild. Many people might not like this. Maybe Polonius is Hamlet when he grows old. Mm-hmm. See the point? So when Hamlet grows old, he's going to be as comic as, I don't know, senile as old Polonius. And then Is this why Shakespeare, I ask a question, why Shakespeare preferred to have Hamlet die rather than make him grow to become a Polonius? Is this one reason? Now, the question of whether Polonius is Hamlet is important, like the similarities between them. It's important to me, it could be unimportant to you, but I want you to think about this. Polonius is dedicated to serving the king because he has this kind of a sense of self-importance. He has vanity. He wants the king to love him, to like him. And that's it. This is what he cares about. He's probably the minister of the king. So he is part of his duty. But remember, he has duty to his son. He has duty to his daughter. He never fulfills that. So he liked being praised. Remember when the king saw him, and the king knew that, the father of good news. But remember, he does this by abandoning his family, by abandoning his daughter when she was most vulnerable. He actually abuses her. He uses her and abuses her. At home, like other fathers in the play, Polonius is authoritarian. We've seen old Hamlet, the ghost, being authoritarian, heartless, repressive, and oppressive. Like again, but again, the same Polonius with Hamlet was cowardly and obedient because he knows Hamlet is going to be king soon. So Hamlet brutalized him by the jokes, by the puns, by the innuendos, by the verbal attacks, and makes him the butt of so many jokes. While Laertes sounded pragmatic when he advised Ophelia not to love Hamlet, Polonius was greedy, expecting more money, gifts to be paid by Hamlet. Remember, Laertes was like, he's going to be a king. Eventually, he's going to get tired of you. So I advise you to leave him. But the man was like, he talked about her as commodity, as something, as product, something to be owned, to be bought, to be sold. He talked about Ophelia as some kind of investment. So maybe he was expecting a higher price, more gifts from Hamlet, which makes him a horrible, horrible father. The other point here is Polonius Shakespeare. Is the character of Polonius, is Shakespeare self-parodying himself, self-criticizing himself by presenting this character? Because there's an element of Shakespearean self-parody here. Like Polonius, Shakespeare himself keeps digressing in Hamlet. For many people, the play within play is stupid, shouldn't be there. Many scenes, many sub-scenes, many digressions shouldn't be there. The scene with Polonius giving advice to his son about France shouldn't be there because it takes from the intensity of the play. It reduces the play into a very lengthy, redundant, and many people think this is a very long play, already 4,000 lines. So Shakespeare himself was digressing, was adding things that something shouldn't be there in Hamlet. So the progress of the play is compromised by the subplots, by the play within play, by the digressions. So when Gertrude said, less matter, more matter, less art, to Polonius, this is us, the audience, many of us, some of us. And this is critics later on, urging Shakespeare to get to the point, stop beating around the bush. Push the plot forward, man. Stop digressing, going right and left. So this is interesting in the way Shakespeare is using self-parody. I asked you a question on Facebook, think about it. And this is a very interesting way how, like sometimes, if I give you too many assignments, I pretend that it's okay, you'll be frustrated and angry and unhappy. But if I give you too much homework and then I tell you, yeah, I am horrible, I am bad, that's why I give you too much homework, maybe you're going to laugh at it or you say, yeah, he knows this, so what? So Shakespeare is, in a way, self-criticizing himself by defending himself by self-criticizing himself. And another, probably the most important piece here of evidence, when Polonius, this is something I guess Ahmed quoted last time, when he talked about the play, the best actors in the world, either for tragedy, comedy, history, pastoral, comical, historical, pastoral, tragical, historical, tragical, comical, historical, pastoral, scene indivisible, or poem unlimited. Now this list here is again, seems to be Shakespeare criticizing himself. But by criticizing himself, Shakespeare is also defending himself, telling us as readers, I know. Yeah, I know. I know you're going to say this about me. So what are you going to do about it? As we can hear Shakespeare anticipating all those essays, all those critics also. He probably not happy about people trying to pigeonhole, pigeonhole, squeeze his text, his huge text like Hamlet, this amazing, thrilling psychological drama, to pigeonhole it into and reduce it into a particular dramatic formula. So revenge play, and that's it. Shakespeare is saying, please don't do that. Don't do that. So Polonius, to conclude, no matter how horribly unfatherly he is, when we talk about his relationship with Ophelia, his use of Ophelia as bait loosed on Hamlet just to please the king makes him the most horrible, the most monstrous character in the play, probably in Shakespeare. This is the same man who, instead of protecting his daughter, when she was attacked and harassed by Hamlet, he feels happy because this is news that he's going to take to the king. And that's why he's again brutally, he's verbally brutalized by Hamlet. He's punished by Hamlet. Even when Hamlet describes him as a fishmonger, meaning a pimp, somebody who sells his daughter to people for money, for praise. Polonius is invested also in eavesdropping, and this is his own demise. Remember, he used Ophelia to spy on Hamlet. He loosed her on him. He said, I'm going to go and hide behind the arras, behind the curtain in the closet scene. And this is why he killed. Live by the sword. He didn't live by the sword. He lived eavesdropping, spying on people, and he died spying on people. And that's why Hamlet's elegy summarizes this. Remember, we said this is a brief elegy, some kind of an insult to him. You like to talk, I'm not going to give you the chance. I'm just going to give you very few lines. Hamlet summarizes what we think of him in his ironically very brief elegy or eulogy when he said, wretched, rash, intruding fool. Farewell, intruding, you keep interfering in other people's business. Instead, this counselor, Polonius, is now most still. He's not moving. Most secret and most grave, who was in life a foolish, prating knave. And this is beautiful. The beautiful here couplet is also important. Grave and knave. Also the pun on grave. He's grave because he's sad, but he's also dead, so he's grave. The question is this poetic justice? Does Polonius deserve to die this way? Say something, somebody. Okay. Shakespeare invented critics. Okay, nice way to put it, Ahmed. I'll move to Ophelia. We spoke in detail about Ophelia, but I want to be fair to her. I don't want to be imbalanced, focusing on male characters. And so I'm going to go through the things very quickly regarding Ophelia. So she was passive, described as fair. People were more interested in her physical appearance, on her being the bride for their son, on her being used because she's weak, obedient, and meek, and passive, inactive. She was, and I like this critic saying that she was passive almost to the point of non-existent. She wasn't existent. She didn't exist. She didn't have a voice. We've seen how she keeps saying, I shall obey my father. I don't know what I shall do, my Lord. And again, she has no independent consciousness. She's an extreme version of Gertrude. She speaks to the king and the queen only when she's dead. Sorry, when she's mad. There was no interaction between her and the queen. Even in that scene within a play, she could have said something, but only when She goes mad, she talks to people. She is free from these, customs, conventions, from her fears. But again, it's a woman, so only madness makes her courageous. Or it's up to the producers of the play if they wish to inject a note of defiance when she talks to Hamlet, to Laertes, to her father. The play presents her as helpless, but we don't have much evidence. Again, it depends on her body language and facial expression. Because of her and Gertrude and other women, Shakespeare sounds anti-feminist. I don't think he is, because in other plays, he's a very powerful, strong man. He's presenting women as very powerful, independent women. But again, he's exploiting this passivity to provoke responses. This is what I think about this. He wants to provoke women, to provoke the people in the age, to provoke us now, to provoke responses from the characters and from the audience. We don't like this. We protest this. We don't want to do this ourselves, to our sisters, to our daughters, to the women in our lives. So it is the Elizabethan society that is anti-feminist. When Hamlet says, "Frailty, thy name is woman," so many times Hamlet made some kind of anti-feminist and probably misogynistic remarks. Is he an anti-feminist or misogynistic? A misogynist? Think about this. He's unconsciously commenting on his mother and his girlfriend. He said, "Frailty, thy name is woman." In her uncomplicated opinions, there was no complication. She's a shallow, flat character. She changes just when she goes mad. Ophelia is radically different from other women like Juliet, Portia, Cordelia, Desdemona, who defy their parents, defy their custom. In Ophelia's case, there isn't even a gesture of struggle. Nothing, null, nil, nada. Shakespeare does little to develop her, and she's presented as somebody with no opinion even. She doesn't have a voice. "I shall obey, my lord," she says. "I don't know, my lord, what to think, even thinking." She can't do. Now, Ophelia and Hamlet, would you blame her for what happened between her and Hamlet, what happened to Hamlet, what happened to her? It's true, listen, this is very careful. When you defend Ophelia, don't be anti-feminist in your obedience, in your defense of her. See, my point is that try not to say, okay, she's a girl, so she shouldn't have done this. They shouldn't have done this to her. So be careful what you do. She makes no attempt to communicate with Hamlet. So when I say that I'm angry at her, it's not because I know that all people are capable, they have the potential, the capacity. She does. So I'm expressing my frustration here that Ophelia doesn't try to communicate with Hamlet. She agrees to be used. There were 2 occasions, remember? When she could have confided in him, even in whispers. In the scene, when she was loosed on Hamlet, in the to be or not to be scene, the nunnery scene, she could have just whispered something. In the play within play scene, she could have also said something. Not that, again, Hamlet is the guardian or protector, but this could have changed things. Shakespeare keeps her silent, sadly. After the nunnery scene, she speaks to the audience for the only time in the play. And even when she does so, she presents herself as a victim of Hamlet's roughness. She's the victim. And when she talks about Hamlet, she talks about Hamlet in the traditional roles of princesses. He's a fighter, he's a soldier, he's a warrior, he's a swordsman, he's a poet. He's gone now. There is no sign she feels she has behaved in any way shamefully. She doesn't understand that she's being used. She doesn't understand that she is to blame for what is happening to her, at least partly, and what's happening to Hamlet. Nor does she express any understanding of Hamlet. And this is really frustrating. She should have understood that what Hamlet is going through. The death of his father, the hasty marriage of his mother, and the loss of the crown. I'm sure he must have told her, when I become king, we'll do this, we'll do that. And now he's not king at all. Her lament of Hamlet, her lament of the man Hamlet was once, was generalized, conventional, rather than personal. There's no heat, there's no connection. She gave up on him so easily. She agreed to stop loving him instantly. Ophelia chooses to describe what happens to Hamlet as madness when she says blasted with ecstasy. Oh, he's mad, he's gone mad, rather than try to consider whether her own behavior in a way provoked or deserved this or caused this, maybe. And if you ask me, is she partly to blame for what happened to Hamlet? Yes. Is she to blame at least partly for what happened to her? Definitely, yes. I'm defending her. I'm saying she is a victim of a horrible society, the constructs of the Elizabethan anti-feminist, misogynistic Elizabethan constructs, but she is also partly to blame. Now, by the end, Ophelia achieves the ultimate passivity. And paradoxically, and this is paradoxical because a new kind of power begins here. First, in her distraction, she talks to the king, she talks to the queen, she says whatever she wants to say, she loves about sex, she sings about sex and love and marriage and death, and nobody tells her not to do so. She does whatever she wants to do. Then in the brook, when she finally dies, I think she took her own life as an act of resistance, as an act of rejection to this society. But again, this is what women have to do in a society that doesn't allow them to speak. And I like this. One critic focused on how in her coffin, she was the powerful person because both Hamlet and Laertes were fighting over her. They went down to her grave, giving her even more power. But what kind of power is this? Probably symbolic. Her incapacity, which has been a theme modules into madness, presented as plaintive songs and pretty nonsense. The songs, that she was, the songs, the ideas, the things that she mentioned, the utterances were, again, both evidence of her madness and her liberation, her freedom. This, together with Gertrude's stylized presentation of her death, remember how she presented her, decorating it, offers a decoration in a place of any attempt at a psychological elaboration. I think it fails to give us some kind of psychological elaboration because she again talked about her in a sense of how sweet the roses, the flowers, how sweet she is, and now like an angel she passed away, fair Ophelia. Even her madness is less real. Even her madness is less real compared to Hamlet because she seems tidy, unproblematic, and unthreatening. Nobody fears her. Nobody cares about her. Like they do, but not that much. Remember when Hamlet was mad or pretended to be mad, the king was, oh my God, madness in great ones shall not unwatched go. Though be it mad, though he is mad, I can't remember the exact wording. There is method in it. There is method in Hamlet's madness. For many, she was tidy, unproblematic, and this is some kind of feminine madness, if there is a term. Ophelia is presented as an innocent victim of other people's wickedness. Was Ophelia's death an act of resistance is the question I want you to think of. I'm sorry, I'm not going to give you time to talk about Ophelia because this was one of your questions that you elaborated on, but think about these issues and think about this, Ophelia being, her death being an act of resistance. Now, Horatio is, you notice how many times I referred to Horatio in a particular way. There is many things I have in mind about Horatio that I don't want to say right now. I'll delay them until the end of the course. Some conspiracy theories like the ones raised by you in the past about somebody killing Ophelia, the king probably killing Ophelia. So Horatio is Hamlet's best friend, the sole survivor who functions in several ways in this play, dramatically. According to Hamlet, he is one man picked out of 10,000, one of a kind, unprecedented, faithful, credible, truthful. The play presents him as a scholar, knowledgeable, credible, and trustworthy. That's why he was brought to check on to make sure that this is really a ghost. He sounded skeptical at the beginning, but his skepticism mirrors that of some of the readers and the audience members. So his skepticism establishes the reality of the ghost because he said, I don't think so, I don't believe in ghosts. But when the ghost came, he was like, oh my God, I do in part, even when he admitted it, he said, I do in part believe it. In his role as a chorus, the chorus in the again traditional classical plays, at the beginning of the play or between acts, some group of singers would come and sing what happened off stage. So he's doing the role of the chorus here. He told us what happened before old Fortinbras, old Hamlet. He also sets the political scene, tells us about the politics of the scene, probably the corruption. Horatio remains dependent. Hamlet depends on him, faithful to Hamlet, uncorrupt. He's not corrupted by the political corruption in the whole country, in the rotten state of Denmark. Hamlet's choice of Horatio to tell him the story sounds very appropriate, not only because he is the survivor at the end. But again, remember, I raised this question before, I raise it again. Does your perception of Horatio change when we meet Fortinbras at the end? Remember, Fortinbras was framed negatively as hot, a leader of mercenaries, somebody with no experience. And then Fortinbras was presented to us as, by Hamlet as a delicate, nice, cool prince. And finally, we get to meet Fortinbras. How did you find Fortinbras? And does this change your perception of Horatio, what he said about Fortinbras? Think about it. Now, all other characters betray Hamlet. His mom, even his dad, he betrayed him by his death. He betrayed him by the ghost, the orders. His uncle, Ophelia, probably Laertes, definitely Laertes, Polonius, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, he remains constant, faithful. We see him impartially challenge anything short of truth. He wants the truth and nothing but the truth. Even when Marcellus and Bernardo try to exaggerate the ghost's visit. Now, this is something I haven't seen anywhere, probably. I haven't read everything, of course, on Hamlet. But I found him very skeptical of the play within play. He wasn't happy, but he was, saying, okay, to Hamlet, not definitely giving him the definite answer, saying, yes, the king is to blame because of the way he reacted, but also not telling Hamlet, shut up, this is a stupid play within play. So the play within play, he sounds neutral in answering Hamlet's question about the reaction of the king, but I think there is a hint of hesitancy in his short, laconic, brief replies. Get back to the replies and you'll find that he wasn't very definite. He wasn't giving Hamlet 100% of his support. He remains static throughout the whole play. He's not around character, he's a flat character. He expresses no emotions, except at the end when Hamlet dies. And what a set of emotions he expresses, fascinating. In Act 1, he declared, heaven will direct us, when Hamlet ran after the ghost. At the end of the play, he said, there is divinity that shapes our end. And he agrees when Hamlet says, Horatio agrees that is, when Hamlet says there is divinity that shapes our end, he says that is most certain. As a student of philosophy at Wittenberg, Horatio is, there is a Horatio-like side of Hamlet. Hamlet is probably missing some things. This peace of mind, this certainty, this stability, it's there. He's looking forward to it. It's in Hamlet, it's in Horatio. It is as far removed from the revenge hero as Hamlet can be. He's not a revenge hero character. In Hamlet's most reflective words, it is Horatio's qualities that the prince celebrates. Hamlet says, give me that man that is not passion's slave. You're not a slave for passion like revenge or love or desire or hate or jealousy. And I will wear him in my heart's core, in my heart of heart as I do thee, Horatio. This is why he likes Horatio. Horatio is not a slave of passions, emotions. Now say something before we go to the last part of this. You can unmute. Anybody?
I still believe that Horatio is a little bit of a coward. Because, can you hear me?
Yeah. What should he have done?
Um, uh, when the ghost appears and Hamlet follows it, and he says, heaven will direct it. That's basically saying, let God take care of it. And then the other guy says, nay, let's follow him. I mean, he could have said, let's follow him. Why did he say nay? Like, nay is no, let's follow him.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
Horatio was hesitant then. So let's not follow Hamlet because he's following a ghost.
And he expressed his fear, by the way, when he saw the ghost. He said something, I can't remember now, but we emphasized early in the play. Or I think it was Marcellus who made fun of him because he was shaking when he saw the ghost.
Yeah.
Or could be, so you're talking about hesitancy. Sorry, cover this. Maybe something else. We'll talk about this later on, hopefully. More, anybody else? Ahmad Jan says, how can the death of Hamlet's father be a kind of betraying? Maybe I misspoke, but in a sense.
Yeah, I think his father betrayed him. I think his father.
You feel betrayed when your friend sometimes dies untimely, unexpectedly, prematurely. Why did you die and leave me? We say this usually. It's in that poetic sense. I'm not saying literally.
Yeah,
or
but
maybe why didn't his father, I don't know, like left a will saying, when I die, Hamlet should be king? Or Ahmad, when the ghost appeared, assuming that this is the ghost of his father, and told him, kill this, don't kill that, destroyed his life eventually.
Yep, that's what I was going to say.
Masha Abdullah, I stole that from you. He could have done something, at least a recommendation, Khalid. Yeah, yes, it's an elective monarchy. Anyone wants to say something about Horatio? Either type or speak up. Or forever remain silent.
I think Horatio is cunning too.
In what sense?
He's not like, I go to Dr. Ayman, he's not a few. He's cunning. At some point, Hamlet describes the king. I forgot the lines. Oh God! And then Horatio says, "You could have rhymed," and the rhyme would have been the word "us" about the king.
Yeah.
So I just thought, oh wow, that's very brilliant of Horatio, and that's very cunning too.
He's witty.
It was a really cool couplet. So,
he's a university student. He's a scholar. Don't forget that. Now, the last part, I wanted to talk about the delay in the play. There will no time, so we will delay the delay that we delayed, hopefully not to delay later on. I'll talk about the problem of the ghost. This is a ghost. We don't listen. I was watching a movie the other night, and somebody was like, stories are stupid, they're not real. And then I remembered you, Abdullah and Khalid, the exchange that happened before. And then she told him, listen, there is something called suspension of disbelief. And by the way, I print screen that. I can post it to you. I found that very interesting. So yeah, we don't believe in ghosts. So take it, suspend your disbelief. Now, the ghost, some people insist it has to be written in a capital G. It's up to you. But it's a very significant thing to the play. It adds not only flavor. Flavor is a stupid way of putting it. I'm sorry. It adds depth, adds psychological depth to the play beyond imagining that nothing else could have. بمعنى إنه the king could have left a letter behind. So the play begins, opens, and somebody finds a letter, and the letter could be a letter his father wrote, or a message he wrote when he was dying. Oh, I'm dying. And he writes something to Hamlet and somebody gives him. It could have been like this, easy. That's Shakespeare. The ghost is important. If you take the ghost, the play loses a lot of things. So please, those who don't believe in ghosts or magic, suspend your disbelief and listen to this. And if you want to say something, you can say in 5 minutes. Now, Hamlet's reaction to the ghost is the turning point of the play. Now, Hamlet saw the ghost, Act 1, scene 5, right? sorry, scene. What scene was that? Scene 4. And there is a huge discussion among actors. There's one actor, because when they were talking and chatting, and when the ghost enters, it's like, oh, like the whole stage is, jumps in fear, in anticipation, because this is a ghost. And somebody was like, why would you exaggerate this? He said, if you see a ghost, you would react in this way. So Hamlet's reaction is the turning point of the whole play. Imagine the play without the ghost. What would have Hamlet, honestly, if the ghost didn't tell Hamlet, I was killed, your father poisoned me when I was asleep. Kill him, don't kill your mom. What would have Hamlet done? I don't know. Think about it. Like in another dimension. The ghost puts Hamlet in a moral dilemma because there is a lot of contradictions here about the spirit of health or a goblin damned, wicked or charitable, evil or good. The long moment of suspense generated by the antithesis is used by Shakespeare to register in the audience's consciousness the idea of the ambiguous nature of the ghost, the contradictions, the paradoxes. Shakespeare is telling us this ghost is ambiguous. He could be this or that, good or evil. You don't just take it for granted. It or he, again, there is something interesting about this. Should we talk about the ghost as an it, a spirit, or a he, being Hamlet's father? The ghost doesn't care about Hamlet's state of mind, by the way. Hamlet is suffering, is in pain. His father has just died. His mother has hastily remarried. He doesn't care about him. He doesn't check about him. He doesn't express his love to Hamlet. He was cruel, authoritarian, probably as Polonius. It describes, I'm using it, sorry, I'm sure. It describes in graphic, minute details, the purgatory, the suffering, the pain, what happens to him in the grave, in between. The ghost terrifies Hamlet with the prospect of divine wrath, tells Hamlet there is wrath, I'm suffering, I'm in pain, I'm being punished. And at the same time tells Hamlet to commit a crime that will condemn Hamlet to the same destiny. So I'm suffering because I have sins, kill that person, I don't know, I don't care what happens to you next when you die. The ghost itself tells us that killing a king is murder most foul, strange, and unnatural. So why tell the person that Hamlet killed the king? Remember, the king was next to God, on top of the chain of being. It attacks Gertrude's sexual depravity. And at the same time, tells Hamlet, don't think ill of your mom. Spare her, don't kill her. Very contradictory. So Hamlet here is hammered, is hit by a battery of a set of double messages, contradictory messages. An idea and a contradiction. In brief, the ghost's moral code is a mass of contradiction. Now, when they spoke first, remember Hamlet's reaction? I find this very beautiful reply from, we discussed this in the class. I gave you a quiz if you remember. Hamlet masterfully tells us that Hamlet is unfit to be the revenge hero his father, the ghost, wants him to be. So Hamlet says, haste to know it, me to know it, that I with wings, he's talking about revenge and death and blood and killing a king. I with wings as swift as what? A tiger, a cheetah, a lion, a falcon, a vulture, a thunderbolt, as meditation or thoughts of love may sweep my revenge. This is the most cutely paradoxical statement. Hamlet is not in the right play. He shouldn't have been told to kill. He's not a killer, he's not a murderer. We've seen this. And look at the king, the ghost's reply. I find thee apt, very ironic, very sarcastic. And dollar shouldst thou be, wouldst thou not stare in this. If you don't move, if you don't act upon my commandment, if you don't remember me, if you forget me, you'll be dull. And probably he was dull the whole play. So this is a confused simile by Hamlet. It doesn't fit the situation of revenge and death and blood and killing a king. Even the ghost's reply was a cunning mixture of ironic praise. There was irony, thank you, I find thee apt, but there was also some sarcasm. There's a question here of who's poisoned who. Remember we spoke about the ears and hearing and eavesdropping and poisoning. The ghost's language is graphic and gory. How he was killed, how he's suffering. The minute details it was told him. The most important thing is that, listen to this significant piece of information. We never learn whether what the ghost told Hamlet was true or not. We never learn in the whole play whether the king did really kill old Hamlet by pouring poison in his ear as he slept. We don't know. The king does confess later in the soliloquy, remember, after the play within play, he does confess he killed his brother, but we are not told how, and that's Shakespeare. He doesn't want to give us clear-cut answers. It's always gray, it's always open to you to think, to elaborate, opens all the possibilities. Why does Shakespeare invent such an elaborate method of killing, imprinting it on the audience's imagination by describing it in minutely disturbing details? And then later on, he doesn't verify it. The way he was killed, the poison, the snake, the serpent, oh my, horrifying. We see it twice in the play. Once described by the ghost and once enacted literally by the actors, but it's never verified. Perhaps Shakespeare is inviting us to explore the idea of somebody having poison put into their ear or into his ear metaphorically. So it's not only about physical poisoning and killing, it's also about the metaphorical poisoning that happened to Hamlet by his father, ghost of his father, that happened to Ophelia by her brother and her father, that later happened to probably Laertes by the king himself. There's a lot of poisoning here in that play. The only poisoning that was not confirmed is the physical, actual poisoning of the king. Now, my question, my crazy question is, was there ever a ghost in the whole play? There is a play, but was there a ghost? Is it really a ghost? Or was there ever a ghost or no? Let's see this idea I have in mind here. Remember, many people saw the ghost. The guards, Horatio confirmed it, later Hamlet saw it. The craziest thing is that in the closet scene, the chamber, Gertrude's chamber, it reappears to whet Hamlet's dull revenge or spirit, whatever it said. But Gertrude does not see it. Was there ever a ghost? It is these fascinating ambiguities in the ghost's message to Hamlet, the contradictions, the paradoxes, that transform the play from just being a mere crude revenge play, an ordinary traditional, somebody kills somebody and then somebody kills this somebody. It transcends it into a sophisticated psychological kind of drama. Hamlet, remember, is haunted by a figure, his father, the figure of his father. You could take the figure, the ghost, metaphorically, the father, like if somebody kills your dad, God forbid, you have to take revenge. So this Hamlet is haunted by the figure that closely resembles his father, the father that is considered to be a god on earth. Hamlet spends the whole play vowing to obey instructions, to remember, but he refuses to follow. He doesn't take action many times. He lives in the castle. He could have killed the king anytime. Of course, if he killed the king in Act 2, Scene 1, the whole play could have finished, or could have become another Macbeth, remember? Maybe we mentioned this before, and Shakespeare doesn't want to repeat another Macbeth. Although he never articulates, Hamlet never articulates criticism of his father. This is the idea of being unloved, being loved by the clown, Yorick, more than his father and mother. Hamlet's actions, or lack thereof, because he doesn't take action, until late at the end. Speak louder than his words. So Hamlet probably didn't like his father, who wasn't okay. Only when the ghost is exorcised, you know, exorcism, لما تطلع الروح, تطلع الجن, this is exorcising. In Act 5, when Hamlet is liberated, when he goes to the journey to the sea, when he is cleansed, reborn, when he declares, this is me, what does he say? Well, this is I, Hamlet the Dane. He doesn't mention his father. He's a free man. He is himself. Does the prince claim the name he inherited from his father as his own? I am the Dane. I am Hamlet the Dane. But since only Hamlet saw the ghost in Gertrude's chamber, it is legitimate and valid to ask if there ever was a ghost in the first place. Was it a practical joke? Was it a figment of Hamlet's imagination? Was Hamlet hallucinating? Oh, so many open-ended here that makes this the most fascinating text of all time. Now, I'll stop here and I'll give you 5 minutes to speak. Please speak. It would be better if you speak rather than just type. Yes, about the ghost. Any idea? Anything you want to say about the ghost?
Yeah, regarding the
quickly and briefly, Abdullah. Go on.
Abdullah.
مين بحكي؟ عبد الله ولا أحمد تو؟
Ahmed.
Go on, Ahmed.
Yeah. I think if Hamlet was hallucinating, like were all of them hallucinating? Horatio, what's the guy? Not Bassani. What's his name? All the guards hallucinating. I don't think it's valid to say it's all that it didn't exist. I mean, yes, if we believe that Hamlet is insane, which I don't believe so, we could say that he hallucinated the ghost in the chamber scene. The ghost existed, but in Act 4, he doesn't reappear. But I also don't think this is logical, because if you already suspended your disbelief in Act 1 and believe that there might be ghosts in this play, in a world Shakespeare created, and there are ghosts, why don't you also suspend your disbelief of a ghost that appears to everyone? Yes, a ghost who picks the people who can see him.
Okay, I see your point, Ahmed. Think about it. There is a lot I don't want to say, sorry, because I have something in mind that we can do later on, but I want you to keep thinking about this. But you made very, very interesting points here trying to resolve this. So there was a ghost in Act 1, but when Hamlet was hallucinating in the scene where he was with his mom in the chamber. Sarah says, without the ghost, there is no play, no plot, no event. I agree, Sarah, but there could have been other possibilities. This is Shakespeare. And I just suggested one of them. I am not Shakespeare. So he could have written something on the wall with his blood. Oh, I was killed. Hamlet, avenge me, right? Or he could have had a dream. In modern fiction, movies, people have dreams all the time, and they act upon them. Rola says, I think there is a ghost. If not, how Hamlet knows about this? That's correct. I'm saying that. I'm just raising the point how it was seen by people then, and then it wasn't seen by Gertrude. Tasneem says, the possibility that the ghost could be just a trick reminds me of Scooby-Doo cartoon where we see fake ghosts in most of the episodes. I have never watched Scooby-Doo. I don't know how to say it. But that's again, I like connecting Hamlet with life, with things. Maybe you can elaborate on this, Tasneem. Malak says, in Act 1, there is a ghost, but it doesn't appear again. He starts to visualize the ghost. So you agree with Ahmed that later on, this was just a figment of his imagination. More, there were things written before, I probably escaped. Zaid agrees that the ghost was the main reason why that led Hamlet to change during the events. In what sense? Abdurrahman says, this is mainly one of the reasons why Hamlet keeps delaying the revenge. Do you mean the ghost? Because it's a ghost, not something concrete that's possible?
I have some.
Khalid is making fun of my my car. I think if the ghost doesn't appear, Hamlet won't change during the events. Oh, Jove himself, and now reigns here, there, okay. Anything else?
I think I kind of now believe that this play is not about revenge. I'm convinced with this. Yes, there is revenge. There's tragedy, revenge tragedy. But I believe even if the ghost does not appear, even if there is no revenge story, there would be something that would lead Hamlet to say all these soliloquies and to change these changes. And because it's not about a prince whose father, the king, is killed and his uncle is now the king. These struggles Hamlet goes by the whole play are real stuff that happen with everybody, with us, with me, with everybody, with the youth in Gaza and in England.
It's more complicated.
Yeah?
Much more complicated than that. We will talk about this next session. We talk about the delay. Why did Hamlet keep delaying? Malak says, I don't think this play is a revenge one at all. The whole play is about the changes in his character and his emotional state and how he overcomes his eternal weakness. I think Hamlet is delaying the killing of the king because his internal conflict is harder to be resolved than the external conflict of that's a beautiful way to put it, Malak. Ahmad Abul Judian says the ghost is the reason for revenge more than Hamlet's desire. That's, yeah. Hamlet doesn't have that. He's not a killer. He's not a murderer. Maram says maybe Shakespeare invents the idea of ghost in Hamlet's mind just to end the play with the death of all characters. That is also an interesting point to make. Okay, we'll stop here and perhaps we can continue the discussion on Facebook. Khalid says the reason for the changes, the major precursor is revenge. Revenge is the murder. Yeah, interesting. Reham says how can we explain that Hamlet is the only one who hears the ghost? There's something about that the superstition then in the Elizabethan England was that the ghost talks only to the person it appears to. And this adds, again, another layer of ambiguity, contradiction of tension here. That's why it only refused to speak to other people. It spoke to Hamlet only. Abdullah says, maybe Hamlet is just having fun as a director or an actor. That's why he keeps delaying. Okay, so Hamlet likes to talk. He likes to have people around. He likes to be his own. Hamlet is in many ways the director of the whole play also. He pushes the events, the actions. Whatever he does, wherever he goes, the whole play goes there. Interesting point. Mashi, I don't want to take much time. Thank you very much. This has been fun. And I look forward to seeing you, inshallah, next class. يعطيكم العافية. السلام عليكم.